Welcome back, Hyptastic ladies and gentlemen, to another episode in this PTCGO series, a Meta Monday episode where we take a look at a competitive deck from the past or the present in the Pokemon TCG online meta. And today we are going to dive into the past with this Flareon Vespiquen deck in the expanded format. If you want to skip to certain parts of the video, click the annotations that will have popped up on the left hand side of the screen, or click the timestamps in the description or in the comments, and they will take you to where you want to be. Flareon is a stage 1 Pokemon with 2 attacks, but Vengeance is the one and only attack that we are going to be using today. It hits for 20 damage plus 10 more damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile and requires a DCE. And that is basically the exact same effect as Vespiquen, and that's why we are pairing the two up in one deck to make the ultimate Vengeance or Revenge combo to hit for as much damage as we can. They are actually one of the best synergetic duos out there in the expanded format. Flareon has got 100 hit points while Vespiquen has 90 hit points, so 10 hit points less. Vespiquen is a grass type, Flareon is a fire type, so you've got that difference, but the main difference is that the retreat cost of Flareon Vespiquen is non-existent, while Flareon has a 2 retreat cost. So meaning that if we have Flareon in the active spot, most of the time we will leave it there until it gets knocked out while we are hitting for a Vengeance. It's pretty nice that Vespiquen has the free retreat, that can be helpful in some situations. I do run a 4-4 line of Combee and Vespiquen and a 4-4 line of Eevee and Flareon, so very thick lines, because we need lots of Pokemon to discard, and we are never going to use 4 Vespiquen and 4 Flareon in one and the same game, so we can most of the time discard at least half of both of the lines. That's already 8 Pokemon in the discard pile, so we are already hitting for what is that, 100 damage by itself, and we have lots of other Pokemon to discard as well. I have a 1-3 split for the Eevees, 3 Eevees from Furious Fist with energy evolution, and then 1 Eevee from Plasma Freeze. This Eevee has got 60 hit points, the others have 50. That's basically why the split is there, just to have that Eevee with a little bit more HP, to have a little bit of versatility, and to also have a little bit of versatility in their attacks. This Eevee has a Science of Evolution attack, which allows us to search out Flareon and Jolteon, which I do run 1 copy of, 1 Jolteon to take advantage of lightning weakness when we are facing Yveltal. Then we definitely want to get out Jolteon and get easy knockouts on the Yveltals. And then the other Eevee is there for its ability Energy Evolution. If we have a Fire Energy in hand, we can attach it to the Eevee, search our deck for a Flareon, and evolve into our Eevee. Even if we are going first, so if we are going first, we can even evolve immediately into Flareon. And we could potentially attack as well if we have, for example, a Battle Compressor in hand, 4 copies of Battle Compressor in this deck. We really need it. We need max count of Compressor just to be able to compress as many Pokemon as we can, but we can also use it to compress a Fire Energy, 3 Fire Energies and 4 DCEs in this deck. Fire Energies are going to help us out to, for example, power up Flareon without relying on DCEs, because we can Blacksmith onto Flareon. We have 1 Blacksmith here, and what we could do then is we could attach an energy from hand to our Eevee, evolve into Flareon, discard a energy with a Battle Compressor, and then attach it with the Blacksmith onto our Flareon in our first turn if we are going second, and we could immediately hit for a Vengeance then. So it is possible to attack in your first turn if you are going second, even with a Flareon, and it's also possible with Vespiquen, because I do run 1 copy of Forest of Giant Plants. So if we can search out our Forest of Giant Plants, we can immediately evolve into Vespiquen in our first turn, attach a DCE, and attack with Be Revenge if we are going second. So that's actually very important to note, that both attackers can attack in their first turn when going second. Now we also have a lot of other Pokemon in this deck. Most of them are there to help us draw through our deck, find the cards that we need to discard some Pokemon, and to find supporters that we need. There's 4 Unown with Farewell Letter. We can discard Unown from our bench if we have benched it, and then draw into 1 card. That is the ability Farewell Letter. So very helpful. It not only gives us an extra card, but it also increases our damage output with the Vengeance and the Be Revenge attack. One Jirachi-EX with Stellar Guidance to help us get supporters in our hands that we need. For example, we could look for a Teammates. If our Combee in the active spot got knocked out, we can use Jirachi, put it down, search for a Teammate, and we could Teammates for a DCE, and for example the Silver Bangle. Silver Bangle increases our attack damage by 30 if our opponent is playing EXs. So it's basically like a muscle band on steroids against EXs, because we do 10 more damage than a muscle band, and that can be really important to get our damage output up there. If we fail, for example, to get enough battle compressors, having that Silver Bangle can be just enough to get that KO on an EX. We could also search for a Lysandre with Jirachi, Lysandre a Shaymin for an easy price, Lysandre a Hoopa to stall, because sometimes with this deck it's quite funny. Sometimes you start off with a hand full of Pokemon just because we have 28 Pokemon in our deck. It can sometimes happen that you start off with a hand full of Pokemon and then you will have to try to stall a little bit. So putting down Jirachi and getting a Lysandre in hand could help in those situations. You could also look for a Hex Maniac if you're facing Trevenant, if you want to get out under the item lock, or if you're facing Greninja Break, although both are not very popular in the expanded format. And you could obviously get the Blacksmith to Blacksmith onto your Flareon if you're out of DCEs, or if you don't manage to get a DCE in hand. And you could also get a draw supporter in hand, like Sycamore, 3 copies of Sycamore, or a N, 1 copy of N in this deck. And that's it for Jirachi. That is all that Jirachi can do for us. Then we've got 3 Shaymins for obvious reasons, for setup, for helping us draw through our deck, helping us hit those battle compressors. We will search out Shaymin with an Ultra Ball, 4 copies of Ultra Ball. And Ultra Ball is going to be used in combination with Exeggcute. Assume, for example, you've got 2 supporters in hand, 1 Pokemon and 1 Ultra Ball, and you don't want to discard these supporters. They are so useful for you that you don't want to discard them. What you could do is you could get back Exeggcute from the discard pile into your hand, and then use your Ultra Ball to discard that Pokemon together with Exeggcute, avoiding the need to discard any supporters. And you could then search out a Shaymin with an Ultra Ball, for example. So Exeggcute, its sole purpose is here to be discarded and then to get back into your hand for use with an Ultra Ball or with the Computer Search. 1 copy of the Computer Search, 1 copy of the Ace Pack, because you can only have 1 in each and every deck. This is the most powerful card in this deck, will help us out to search any card that we need at any point in the game. And then we are nearly done with the deck analysis. I think we've got 2 Pokemon left. We've got a Dunsparce. Dunsparce is mainly useful in the beginning of the game. If you start off with Dunsparce, that is really good because it has free retreat. You can just retreat into whichever Pokemon that you manage to evolve and manage to attach a DCE to. You could also hit for a Glare to stall. If you flip heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is paralyzed. Very rarely you could hit for a second bite. If you, for example, attacked with Flareon but you didn't get a knockout, you could then in the next turn promote Dunsparce if your Flareon got knocked out, hit for a second bite which does 10 damage plus 10 more damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon, and also takes a DCE, so very handy for us because we do run or rely mostly on a DCE. But oftentimes you don't want to do that. Oftentimes you just want to discard Dunsparce as soon as the game, in the mid and late game I mean, it's only really useful at the start of the game. And then finally we've got Audino. Audino has 2 main uses. The first one is its ability Buzzy Body. If you've got Audino in hand and your active Pokemon was lasered, was put to sleep, you can reveal Audino and say, hey, I've got Audino in my hands, so I may remove the sleep condition from my active Pokemon, making sure that you can attack in your turn, and at the same time you get to discard Audino from your hands, so you add to your attack damage. That is very nice. That is a really good synergy with this deck. And then the second use is its attack, also takes a DCE, is called Hip Pump and hits for 30, very important. It does put out some damage, but mainly the effect. The effect is very nice. There are some decks out there just based around Audino because of the effect of the hit bump attack. If the defending Pokemon tries to attack during his next turn, our opponent has to flip a coin, and if tails, my opponent's attack does nothing. So this could result in very funny situations at some points in some games. If my opponent has a Lysandre and Lysandre's out another Pokemon on our bench, it doesn't matter. As long as his defending Pokemon stays the same, he has to flip that coin, and if it tails, he cannot attack. And yeah, that can be really powerful and can clutch you some games. And that is it for the deck analysis. I think we have neared the end of the analysis. We've got one copy there of Town Map to reveal our prizes. If we know that some DCEs are prized, we want to play Town Map so that we can get DCEs from the prizes. And I think I've explained the most important strategies, most important cards. So we are going to go into an expanded tournament. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to my channel for more competitive, silly and fun deck ideas, and I'll see you in the battles. Alright, the first opponent of the day is going to be King Arthur 91 with a water and a metal deck. So yeah, I maybe didn't mention it in the deck analysis, but we are going to either have some very fast games, because typically you don't have really long drawn out games with this deck. Usually they are pretty fast, pretty speedy, except for the first turn, which takes a little bit of time. But games usually don't last long, and if they do, then it's because you start off with a bunch of Pokemon in your hand, so you're gonna have to stall if that happens. But typically fast games, a bit like Night March, very good for laddering, I think, this deck, and it's a very fun deck to play actually. Do we want to bench the Dunsparce? Not really. We are going to start off with Combee. Oh man, this is we are going to need to dig up our Hex Maniac, potentially get out our Jirachi and use our Jirachi to dig for the Hex Maniac, or we will have to get Flareon out with fire energies. This Aegislash is fire weak, so this is going to be an interesting challenge for us, and hopefully my opponent doesn't find laser. That would be annoying if he lasers our Combee straight away. Oh man, and we don't get a very good hand, and there is the laser. So we need to evolve our Combee or we are going to go down, and that's an easy prize for my opponent. Yeah, we got End into a terrible hand. There we have the Vespiquen, but let's bench 2 Eevees. Let's also, I'm probably going to let the Combee get knocked out. Let's attach this to an Eevee, and then we shall discard the eggs and the Vespiquen and look for a Shaymin. So we've got 2 Pokemon in the discard pile right now. We have started our discarding process. There is a Battle Compressor and a Fire Energy. This is a really bad hand actually. Yeah, we have a really terrible start. Let's compress. Let's see what we have. The Jolteon for sure. Let's also compress the Dunsparce, and let's compress a Combee. Do we have the hip bump in our deck? It doesn't look like it. Do we have the Hex Maniac in our deck? Yes, we do. That is good. My goodness. Excuse me. We will farewell letter. Hopefully get something from that. Another unknown. Let's bench that unknown as well. See what we can get from that farewell letter. Please give us an Ultra Ball or something. Another Battle Compressor. Alright, let's Battle Compress some more. We have 1 Combee. Okay, so we have more than 1 Combee left. 1 Eevee. I've got 2 benched. 1 Eevee is left there. Was that another Eevee? Yeah, that's another Eevee. I'm actually going to get rid of this Eevee here. Let's discard those 3, and hopefully we can draw into something good in the next turn. We are going to end our turn. Let the Combee get knocked out, And we are going to promote our Shaymin. And probably attach a fire energy to Shaymin to then retreat it. And get that fire energy in our discard pile for the Blacksmith. That is going to be our strategy here. So we have a very bad start against a deck which we need a good start against. We've got a fair amount of Pokemon in the deck, but no draw supporters whatsoever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. With a Hex Maniac, that is more than enough to get a knockout on the Aegislash with our Flareon. And there is another laser. So my opponent is making good use of his lasers. Does he get anything else? It doesn't seem like it. Maybe this is a Wailord deck. Wailord style. That could potentially be it. We will... Do we want to counter the stadium? Let's evolve. And I'm actually going to let the Shaymin stay in the active spot for now. See what happens. Because I don't think my opponent has any way of knocking it out. Yeah, I don't think he does. And I will counter the stadium for now. I will leave the Shaymin in the active spot. End our turn here. I believe this is a stall deck, a Wailord stall deck. So we can actually take it slow if that is the case. We can just let our hand size fill up a little bit. Not too much, because my opponent might play Durant and then chip our hand size away with the Durant, with the X Scissor attack from the Durant. I believe that's what it's called. Or Z Scissor. I'm not sure. Scissor something. Yeah, this looks like it's gonna be a Wailord deck. Unless my opponent has a really bad hand here with no other basics. We can afford to let the Shaymin in the active spot if that is the case. Discards. Alright, it's going to get back that Verbank City Gym and counter our stadium, which is okay. Going into our turn, we will have 70, so then we need to retreat the Shaymin, because going into our opponent's turn that would be 100, and then it would be a knockout into our turn. So now it's time to retreat the Shaymin. We do get a Sycamore, which is really, really good. That's what we were waiting for. We will attach to the Shaymin, Sycamore our hand away, and hopefully get an Hex Maniac. We don't get a Hex Maniac. We do have the Blacksmith right there. Let's attach... I'm not gonna attach that just yet. My opponent might play Zero Seek, get rid of the Silver Bangle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to discard the Sycamore and the Teammates for now. We are going to take a look. We are going to take an Unown, or maybe actually the Jirachi. We are going to get the Jirachi in hand for the next turn. And we will retreat into the Flareon without an energy attached to it, so that my opponent cannot use a Team Flag Grunt. And that will be a knockout on the Aegislash in the next turn. Unless my opponent does something to our hand, we have the knockout there. And we have the game. So fingers crossed here. We also have the DCE to attach to the Flareon. Yeah, we've got all the pieces of the puzzle in our hands. What will our opponent do? He needs another basic. He might not know it, but he does. Unless he judges us. He did play Trevor, what is that? Delinquent. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we need to keep the DCE and we need to keep the Jirachi. So we are going to get rid of these. We still have the game here. He does play Hue. Each player either draws or discards cards until he or she has... Yeah, this is a Wailord deck. Only Wailord plays that card. There it is. There is the game against Wailord, even though we didn't see Wailord in action. And yes, we will look for the Hex Maniac. We will take the game right here, right now. Enough shenanigans, enough stalling from my opponent. There we go. Vengeance for the knockouts. For 280 damage. Look at that. Wow, 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 wow. I think we played that pretty neatly, pretty patiently as well. Once I realized it was Wailord, I might have realized it a little bit too late. But there it is, there is the win. Let's see if we can find another opponent, an opponent that actually attacks. Barba77 is going to be our next opponent with a Night March Bronzong deck. Lightning, Psychic, Colorless, Metal, yep. Let's call it Night March Bronzong. Speed deck versus speed deck. My opponent has a benefit that he plays no evolutions, so he's got that benefit. We have the benefit of being able to play Blacksmith. Hopefully we don't have to play too many Shaymin down, because that could ruin us. My opponent could Lysandre out our Shaymin. Hopefully we can Lysandre out his Shaymin. We won the coin flip. We are going to go first. We are going to let our opponent have a shot at our Pokemon, because we need to set up. We will start off with Eevee. It's the only thing we can start off with. Let's see who can win here. Vespiquen Flareon versus Night March. 2 Lysandres. Oh boy, that is immediately not what we want to see. We will get out a Combee. Let's get out a Combee. And then let's discard a Vespiquen and a VS Seeker. Unfortunately, we have to discard that one VS Seeker. And we need to use a Shaymin here. We don't have a draw supporter. It's a bit unfortunate, so we'll have to put down the Shaymin. Hopefully my opponent puts down the Shaymin as well. I would love to get a Hex Maniac. That's what I would love to get, actually. And oh wow, this is a very bad hand here. Might as well play down this Silver Bangle, and we will Farewell Letter for an Ultra Ball. That is good. We can discard this energy and the Vespiquen and hopefully find a supporter, and hopefully we can find the Hex Maniac. I can't go for the Jirachi just yet, because we need more cards in our hands. We need some draw support. So we are already benching 2 Shaymin. That is not really what we want to do. And there is the Hex Maniac. Wow, that is really good. That is a really good top deck. I'm going to keep the DCE in hand for now, and I'm just going to Hex Maniac. We have got 3 Pokemon in the discard pile. That's more than enough. Let's Hex Maniac my opponent and end our turn here. Let's do that. Let's see what my opponent can do. Hopefully he misses out on a knockout against our Eevee. He finds a Battle Compressor straight away. Has he got a DCE in hand? Because discarding 3 Lampent plus a DCE, that would be enough to knock out our Eevee. And that would kind of ruin our plan. Then we are left without something to evolve. And he discards 3 Lampents. Does he have what it takes to dig through his deck? And another Battle Compressor. So he has a really good starting hand. Unlike we did. We really didn't have a good starting hand. I could have dug more here, but I'm really reluctant playing down Shaymins. Really reluctant. And if he plays down Shaymins, we are going to Lysandre them out. We are going to preserve this VS Seeker as if it's a brick of gold, a diamond in the rough. There is a DCE. He has the hand. Puts down the Shaymin. I don't know why he did that. VS Seekers for Lysandre is going to knock out our Shaymin, I believe. Yeah, he is. We are going to knock out his Shaymin in response, hopefully. Maybe just his... We are actually just going to knock out his Jolteon. He does take 2 prizes. That's okay. And that's why I didn't want to bench a Shaymin. We are actually going to play another Hex Maniac. That's what we are going to do. We are going to play another Hex Maniac. Yeah. Let's go for it. We are not going to Lysandre out Shaymin. We cannot knock it out anyways. I don't really want to bench another Shaymin at this point in the game. And that should make it tough on my opponent to get an attacker going for him. He needs to find a float stone, a DCE, and an attacker all with the hand that he has without using Shaymin. In the next turn we should be able to knock out the Shaymin. We should be able to draw through our deck. There is a VS Seeker for probably our teammates. So he did have that in the discard pile. Can he find what it takes? He cannot use a Lysandre this turn, so he can only knock out our Flareon. I'm a bit anxious here that he might actually pull it off, even though we tried to stop him. There's a Dimension Valley and a Puzzle of Time. He could get back a Pumpkaboo and a DCE, and then he could have gotten the Float Stone with the teammates, and that would do it. And that would put us in a very tough spot. I cannot believe that he managed to pull that off with the hand that he had. Maybe I should have ended him. Only 4 cards in his hands. Is he maybe not playing 2 puzzles? He did play 2 puzzles. He did play 2 puzzles. There comes the Pumpkaboo with the DCE, and then we will see the Float Stone. He must have gotten out the Float Stone with his teammates. He must have done that. But maybe not. He's actually tempted. He's doubting here. He's not sure what to do. I'd love to find a Lysandre in the next turn if he retreats to Shaymin. What is he going to do? That is the question here. If he does anything at all. Did he just die? What's happening here? What are you doing, my friends? Oh, he switches. He has a switch in hand. So not a Float Stone. And he does not attack. What? He cannot knock out our Flareon. That explains that. He only has 4 Night Marchers in the discard pile, but he does not attack. So he opts not to play the DCE down, so that if we knock out his Pumpkaboo, he still has the DCE. Okay, let's see. I'm going to put this on the Combee. I'm going to discard a Flareon and a Jolteon. And I'm going to try to find another attacker. Let's actually get an Unown out, so we can discard that Unown and see what we can get from that. If we could get a VS Seeker, that would be pretty nice. It is an Audino. We could actually try to stall with the Audino and Hip Pump. I'm going to put down the Audino and then I play Audino to the bench. Yes, that's what we will do. And then should I end my opponent, we know he has the DCE in hand. Does he have anything else though? What else does he have in hand? I'm actually not too sure. I'm going to risk it. I'm going to end my opponent. Give ourselves 5 cards, bring my opponent down to 4 cards. We get a teammates, which is really good. And we will knock out his Pumpkaboo with our Flareon. Go with the Vengeance, hit for 90 and take our second prize. So we are slowly getting back into the game. Now my opponent needs to find a Float Stone, an attacker and a DCE. So he needs to find Pumpkaboo, a DCE and a Float Stone. He can use Shaymin, but if he does, we might be able to Lysandre them out. I'm probably going to teammates for VS Seekers if he does knock out our Flareon. If he does not, then all the better for us. Then we will just keep attacking with the Vengeance. I'm not sure if I want to put down the Shaymin. We only have 7 Pokemon in the discard pile. What does he say? He is Portuguese. Is that Portuguese? Is he from Brazil? La Perdillo Eso me paso par apurado que le da pereza contar. That's what he said, and that means it's victory for us apparently. That's what that means. So we actually managed to pull off that game there quite well. I think the Hex Maniac is what decided the game in our favor. The Hex Maniac. Our opponents played really well under the Hex Maniac lock, but I think this was the last straw. The end was the final straw for my opponent. If someone can translate that, what my opponent said in the comments, that would be very nice, because I do think that was Portuguese or Spanish, and I do know some Brazilian people and even Spanish people watch my videos. Actually, 10% of you watching this are Brazilian according to the YouTube statistics, so there's an interesting fact for you. We shall find one more final opponent for the day. Donny Darkrai 5-4 is going to be our last opponent for the day with a watercolorless and a darkness deck. Hopefully an Yveltal deck, then we can make use of the Jolteon, show the Jolteon a little bit, have it parade on our bench, let it have its moment of glory. We lost the coin flip, our opponent is going to go first. That's not what we want. 4 puzzles of time, 3 puzzles of time in his hand. That looks like it's a darkness deck. We saw the dark patch. I think it's a darkness deck. We start off with an unknown. Unknown start. We also have an unknown to put on our bench, which I will do. So if we get judged, at least we have the unknown as a backup draw support. My opponent is Mulligan. 1 Mulligan, 2 Mulligan, Mulligan galore. Yep, he's going for a world record in mulligans. Can he get there? He's doing pretty well. He's up to 4 mulligans. I think he needs to do 20 more or so. And he failed to get the world record. We will draw into 3 more cards. We get an Eevee. That is pretty good. I'm probably going to let the unknown get knocked out. Jirachi-EX. Okay, so Jolteon will not help us against Darkrai. Hopefully my opponent plays Yveltal as well. What I will do is probably attach a DCE to the Eevee and maybe Lysandre something out for my opponent, just to stall a little bit. And then Ultra Ball, get rid of Vespiquen and a Flareon, and look for a Shaymin. And then we can draw into 4 cards, because we will still have the VS Seeker and the Flareon in hand. So 4 cards, that's not too bad. Seeing as though we have a hand with 4 cards in it, 5 cards in it initially, which are not useful, which we cannot use. The 3 evolutions, the VS Seeker and the Lysandre, and there's an end, so never mind. There goes my plan. We will get ends, hopefully into a decent hand. That is definitely a decent hand. We get our Battle Compressor. That's the first time actually that we get a Battle Compressor in our first hand. And a Hypnotoxic Laser on the unknown. That's okay. We are probably going to let the unknown get knocked out. Oh, and a Puzzle of Time for the top deck. My opponent seems to have a pretty bad hand there. This unknown will go down going into my opponent's turn actually. Meaning we have to promote another Pokemon. I don't really want to promote the Eevee. I might promote another unknown. Unless we can counter the stadium. If we can find our first of giant plants, that would be ideal. Then the unknown would not go down going into my opponent's turn, and that would force my opponent to pull off an attack on the unknown. That would be ideal here. Hex Maniac. Let's put down the unknown. Let's discard some Pokemon with the Battle Compressor. Let's compress the Dunsparce. Let's also compress. We have the Jolteon right there. And we have a fair amount of Vespiquens, it seems. 1, 2, yes. 3. Oh my. Let's discard another Vespiquen. And then we shall play the Town Map. Have a look. We've got a Combee right there and a Battle Compressor VS Seeker. Okay, let's discard our hand with the Sycamore. See what we can get. We drew into a terrible hand right there. That is a pretty bad hand. Let's put down our unknowns, attach a DCE to the Eevee. We will Battle Compress one Flareon. We have one Flareon right there. Another one there. How many Eevees do we have? One Eevee. Only one other Eevee is left. And two Combees. We'll discard a Combee. And we will also discard... Let's have a look. A Teammates probably. Teammates can come in handy because our Pokemon will get knocked out. So if we get a Vespiquen, we could use the Teammates to get it back. And then we shall use one Unown. Ideally, I want to keep one Unown on the bench that we can promote if our Unown in the active spot gets knocked out. Fire energy, that is not good. I'm going to have to use this Unown here. We need something else. We need something better and another fire energy. Yeah, this is a terrible start for us once again. Not a good start in the first game, not a good start in this game. I don't know what's up. Everything, all the games I played in testing went perfect. I guess that's why. I guess statistics evens it out. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 Pokemon in the discard pile. Can my opponent get a knockout on our Combee? And can we get a Jolteon to get a knockout on the Yveltal? There is a Dark Patch that's going to be an energy on the baby Yveltal possibly. No, he decides to attach it to the Yveltal. And he's going to switch into the Yveltal as well. Is he going to Lysandre something out? No, he's not. So what we need to find is our Jolteon right now, ASAP. Jolteon is what we need. We have the Eevee on the bench to evolve. We do get a Shaymin, so that is good. Let's attach an energy to the Eevee. I do not want to evolve. Let's count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12, that's 140. 140. Actually, I'm going to turn it into a Flareon instead of a Jolteon. Because we should be able to discard 3 more Pokemon. And get that one-hit KO that way. And otherwise we can still Lysandre out the baby Yveltal. There is an Ultra Ball. I might have to discard all my Vespiquen here. Let's discard one Vespiquen and one Fire Energy. And let's get... Did we use a supporter already in my turn? Did we use a supporter? Let's have a look here. Put Flareon on the bench. What did we draw into? I think we top decked the Shaymin, so we could actually go for the Jirachi and end our opponent. Let's go for the Jirachi, put down the Jirachi, see what the Jirachi has to offer us. There is the N. I will go with the N. I just need a Battle Compressor, that's all I need. Can I draw into another Battle Compressor? I cannot, but I do get a Silver Bangle, that works as well. That does it as well for us. I'm gonna leave the stadium in play for now, and we will hit for the knockout with the Vengeance. For 180, just enough. We will get the Vespiquen and another, maybe the Combee actually. Yeah, let's get the Combee. No need for a Battle Compressor right now. Our opponent doesn't really have a way to respond. He could power up the Darkrai, but then he would need to retreat the Yveltal. So we will have to see what my opponents can find to respond to us. He could Dark Patches. Did I discard the Audino? I should have gotten the Audino. That's what I should have done. My opponent put us to sleep. I should have gotten the Audino. I forgot he was playing lasers. Audino would have been really, really helpful right here. And an end for my opponent himself. He does have the Keldeo to rush in and retreat. Can he find that Float Stone? We have a Battle Compressor, a Blacksmith. We can Blacksmith onto the Flareon if my opponent knocks out our Jolteon. discards that Silver Bangle. That is okay. We have the Battle Compressor to increase our damage output. We could even Lysandre out a... No, we don't have a Lysandre in the discard pile. How many VS Seekers do we have in the discard pile? 0 VS Seekers. We still have all 4 VS Seekers. Wow. Now we will counter the stadium. And then I think I'm going to go with the Sycamore here. Let's take a look at the Battle Compressor. Take a look at our deck. Combee, Vespiquen. One Combee can be discarded since we don't have the Vespiquen to evolve it. Do we have another Flareon? How many Flareons did we discard? 2 Flareons, so we can also discard the last Eevee unless we want to evolve into the Jolteon, but we don't really want to do that. And then we shall VS Seeker for a Sycamore. Luckily we did wake up, so I'm definitely going to get the Audino from the prizes. I should have gotten the Audino in the first place. That was a slight mistake. And I will power up the Flareon. Hit for a KO with our Flareon. In the next turn, my opponents might very well knock out our Flareon with the Darkrai. That is definitely a possibility. Could hit for a Night Spear and put some damage onto our Combee. We are going to get out our Vespiquen with an Ultra Ball then, if that happens. But we should have the game. We have 2 backup attackers ready. We have 3 attackers total. 1 is going to get knocked out, but the other 2 should give us enough leeway to take the game. Should be sufficient to take the game. And my opponent is going to end us once again. Bring our hand down to 3 cards. We have 17 cards in deck. We have 3 more VS Seekers. We should be able to draw something useful, and we did draw into a Lysandre, and I'm actually going to Lysandre out. I'm going to Lysandre out. Do I want to Lysandre anything out? It depends on how high our damage output is right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 11, 15, 16, 17, 18, 18 plus, that's 180, that's 200, 200. That is not enough for a knockout. That is not enough for a knockout indeed. So what we shall do is we shall get an Exeggcute back. I don't want to discard that Sycamore. I want to leave 1 Sycamore in hand. We will discard the Sycamore and the Exeggcute. We will get a Vespiquen out. And we shall evolve the Vespiquen. Then we shall Lysandre my opponent's Darkrai on the bench. And then if that Darkrai knocks out our Flareon, we have enough Pokemon in the discard pile to knock out the Darkrai itself. That would bring our damage total to 220. So we will hit for the Vengeance and get a Battle Compressor as well as an Eevee. We could Battle Compress the Shaymin that's still in our deck. Maybe I should have done that before. Battle Compress that Shaymin. Could also Battle Compress the Audino, which is also still in our deck, I believe. Yeah, I don't think that my opponent can do anything here to come back. He needs to take 3 prizes right now, or he might lose. And he ends us down to 1 card. That is interesting. He ends us into the DCE. He ends us into the game. We didn't even have the DCE in hand before. Wow. Yeah, that was that end actually helped us out. That is a bit unfortunate for my opponent. If we had been end into a not so useful hands, that could actually have cost us the game. But we know that we still had 3 VS Seekers in the deck, so and some supporters, so we were very likely of drawing into something helpful, and we did. We will take the game here with Vespiquen. I believe that should be game. Let's count it up. 1, 2, 5, 9, 12, 16, 18, 20, plus 20. That is a knockout. be revenged for the knockout just enough. And that shall be it for today. I think those were pretty convincing matches with the Vespiquen Flareon deck. You didn't really see it to its full potential though, because I never really managed to get it off on the first turn in this recording session, and that doesn't really matter because I still managed to pull off the wins. So even if you start off with a bad hand, Vespiquen Flareon will most likely be able to come back. You just have to try to potentially stall a little bit and try to get the right cards in your hands with the hand that you have. We dealt 780 damage versus 340 for my opponent. Flareon is the MVP against Darkrai-EX. Both of us drew into a fair amount of cards, 65 for myself, 68 for my opponent. Leave a like if you enjoyed the Flareon Vespiquen combo, the revenge and the vengeance in this episode, and subscribe to my channel for more revenge and for more vengeance, and I will see you on Wednesday with a Wizard Wednesday episode.
Carp, 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 carp.